Welcome to Artistic Adventures. This is a special Christmas edition. We're going to make a Christmas angel out of a Monster High doll that you can actually use on a tree. And unfortunately, when I started this project, the first part with her face up got deleted, but files got deleted somehow. So we're going to continue with what was filmed after the face up. So this is a doll that I've had for a while, and it has the first wig that I ever made out of alpaca fiber. So I did do a new face up on her, and I'm going to try to hide the top part of her hair where I didn't do a very good job since this was my first wig ever. A lot of the glue was showing, and I still want to make use of this beautiful fiber. So, since she has this white hair, I thought she'd make a good angel. So, I'm going to section it off, make sure I comb it out really nice, and then put hairspray on it. That will make it hold the curl. And then I'm going to just go around with my little 1/4 inch curling iron and curl it all over her head. And this way, I think we'll be able to do sort of an updo and hide that gluey part that's on the top. All right, so we actually did this in a couple of other videos that I've done, the Bellatrix doll and the Snow White doll. So the drill is that you use the hairspray to set it, curl it, hold it, then slide it off the barrel without disturbing the curl so that it will cool down, and then the curl will hold a lot longer unless, something happens and you don't get enough hairspray on it. So this time I didn't have any crazy devil curls that bedeviled me like I did in the Snow White video. I'm still laughing about that. Anyway, just curling her all over the head, and just wanted to say I hope you guys are all going to have a wonderful holiday season and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and that you will all be blessed and your families will be healthy and you'll be more creative than ever. And I would love to see your creative efforts on our Facebook page. So if you have anything that you've been working on or you'd like to show off, please post it there. I have the link in the About section of my main page. So I'm still just curling away here, making sure that I've got this combed out really nicely because I am going to actually separate these once it's dried and cooler to give it a more fluffy look. But if I don't have it combed out prior to that, since I'm putting this spray on there, it's going to be difficult to separate and not look all matted up. So that's the nice thing about using the E6000. Is a really tough glue, and once you glue it down, if you get all the fibers connected to the glue, you can wash it, you can comb it like this. You're still going to lose a few fibers here and there, just like you would with human hair, but it's pretty durable once you get that glue cap set with the E6000. And you've seen me do wigs in other videos. If this is your first video with me, you can check out some of my other wig videos to see how I do wig caps and attach the fiber to the wig cap to make a nice wig for my dolls. And fortunately, I've gotten a lot better at it since this one. I think I did this one maybe 4 years ago. This wig's been around a long time, and I've had this doll, and I wanted to do something else with it, but it's not a doll I would want to sell because of the condition of the wig. So I'm going to make my own Christmas angel, and this is a doll that I'm going to keep and put on my own Christmas tree, although my tree is really small. So now that we've got it all curled out, like I said, we're just going to let that set. And I made these videos over 3 or 4 days. So although you're seeing it all at one time, because I wanted to show you the complete project, she did sit for a while. Now I'm going to take this foam paper. I don't know what you call this, foam something. Anyway, it's thin, like a thin piece of foam you can get at Michael's. And I'm going to make a cone with an opening at the top big enough for the doll's waist. Now this is going to be the part that will allow you to use her as a Christmas tree angel. So it's just going to be a cone that will be her skirt. The skirt will go over it, the decorative part, but this is firm enough that, it just sits on top of a tree really nicely. So once I get that cut to the size that I want and get it even, then I just am going to put a piece of tape, just some Scotch tape on it to hold it while I make sure I have it positioned correctly. And then I did put some packing tape over it just to make it smooth, but I did put some glue on the overlap part too, just to make sure it holds and doesn't fall apart. So you see there, it's longer than her feet or her legs. So that way her legs won't show. And if you ever wanted to use the doll again, all you have to do is just, you know, take the tape off. It's not a permanent thing. But for my purposes, I think this doll will pretty much stay a Christmas angel. So now that I've got the packing tape on and I've got it smoothed out and evened up on the edges, so she'll actually stand up with that cone. So this is another way, like if you just wanted to make a dress for a doll and have her stand up without those annoying Monster High stands that really mess up costumes all the time for me, then you could make a dress like this and then have the cone part be the stand. So it comes right up under her breast, and hopefully this will make it a nice smooth transition. Now I bent these white pipe cleaners in the shape of the wings, the way I want the wings to look. They're going to attach at the end here of the pipe cleaner by going into her dress and gluing her down. So I'm going to use that shape to cut out some more of this foam material and use that as the shape of the wings that I'm going to put the feathers on. So I'm just going to take a pencil and hold this down and draw in the shape of the wings that I want. So I kind of want them to, arch up and then come down really long down her back. This is just sort of how I picture angel wings. I mean, you can do wings a whole lot of different ways. You could have them going straight up, or you could have them, folded. Lots of different ways to do angel wings. As everything with art, you can do it however you prefer to do it. And if you didn't want to use feathers like I'm going to use, you could always just use material like a light organza and cut sort of feather shapes out of the organza and sew them on. So this is the shape of the wing that I'm going to use, and I'm going to clip off that end there to be straight because that's going to allow the pipe cleaner to come out and attach to her back. Now the pipe cleaner is going to go in between the wings. This foam material is nice because it's very light, and the pipe cleaner is all you need to support it. And I just needed something under there as a structure to be able to attach it to her back. So that's why I'm using the pipe cleaner. I'm sure there's other things you could use. I'm going to just fold another piece of this over and cut two more of these shapes out for the other side. So we'll need a total of 4 of these wing shapes, 2 for each side, because we're going to glue it around the pipe cleaner. Okay, so I'm going to start with the outside edge and glue that down. Then we'll be able, once it's glued, stick the pipe cleaner inside, and then we can glue the inner side down. So I'm just putting a thin strip of my E6000 up the outside edge of the wing. And then we'll put the top on and hold that down and let it dry. We'll do that for both sides. Now this will take a while for this to dry, so I'm going to put those aside and let those dry, and we'll come back to those when we're ready to make the wings. So let's move on. The next thing that I want to work on is the dress, and I'm using sort of a crepe de chine fabric. It doesn't fray really bad. It does fray a little bit, but not too bad, and it's nice and drapey, so it looks to me like angel attire. So what I'm going to do is flatten that cone down and then trace around it about an inch on the outside, maybe a little bit less, maybe 3/4 of an inch, to allow for the sides and the seam. And I'm going to have her arms out to the side and make some sleeves that are sort of bell shaped. So I'm starting down here at the bottom, and like I said, I'm drawing out from that edge about an inch or so. Now I'm going to have an opening in the back. So once I get this done, I'm going to cut the left side here, both thicknesses of the material. There's two thicknesses here, and half of the bottom. Then I'm going to start on the right side and just cut the top part. And this will be the front of the dress. That's because I need to allow extra material on the back of the dress to have a seam and an opening so that we can get the doll in it. So once we get this part cut out, then we can make a back size that's a little bit bigger. Okay, so there's the front, and just kind of a bell-shaped sleeves and bell-shaped dress. So now I'm going to pull that front part of the material, the top part up. We're going to lay the top back down on top of this because we do want the pattern of the right side to match the front. And then once we get it laid down on top of it, we're just going to shift it over to the right. All right, so just move it over about an inch, and that'll account for the back seam and for the part that I need to sew to overlap for to fasten it in the back. And then we're going to cut it out, and as you can see, then we have a front piece and a back piece that's a little bit wider. I'm going to take the back piece and fold it over in half, and do this for two things. First of all, to even up the sides so that they're symmetrical, and then to cut a seam up the middle, or make us cut up the back, so I have two pieces. And I'm going to fold the front in half and even it up as well. And now I'm ready to start sewing. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew a seam down the back, and I'm going to leave an opening up at the top from the neck down to below the waist so that I can make an opening. So about that far down. Now I probably needed to make it a little bit further down because once I started trying to get this on the doll, I really had to struggle, but I did get it on. But if you're making one, you might want to come down just a little bit further than I did. All right, now I'm going to fold those sides of the opening over and sew those down with a seam so that there's a finished edge on the opening in the back. And then I just sewed across the bottom of that and then up the other side. And that will be the opening in the back of the dress that we can put a piece of Velcro on. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is to sew the shoulder seams together. And I'm sort of measuring, folding that over in the back so I know where the neckline will be, because we have to leave a little part at the top open for the neckline. So I've got that lined up, and I did the top shoulder seam on the right, and I'm going to do the one on the left. So you can see I left a little bit open there. From there on I sewed. All right, so we're going to do the other side. All right, so we've got the two shoulder seams. That is so hard to say. Shoulder seams done. Now, because of the small size of the sleeve opening, I'm going to go ahead and hem the sleeve. If this was a human-sized garment, a lot of times you will do the hem of a sleeve after you've sewed up the whole sleeve, but it's so hard to do on these little openings. So I'm going to go ahead and hem both sleeves. And then once we have that, then we can sew the underside of the seam, the sleeve, and the side seam. And that will finish up the structure of the dress. All right, so I'm starting at the sleeve, making sure that's even underneath, sewing under to the underarm, and then down the side. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side of the dress, matching up the sleeve first, and underarm, and then down the side. And then you can really look too at the bottom and see if there's any uneven places and trim those off. And then we're going to just turn up a sort of a 1/4 inch seam, hem, I'm sorry, not a seam, a hem, and then sew that. So we'll have a finished hem on this dress. So pretty simple. This is really an easy dress to make, and you can use this for, any kind of long gown or even a shorter dress if you wanted to. Really easy to do. Just trace the outline of the doll. All right, so the only thing left here is the opening of the neckline. So what I want to do is just starting at one of the folded over edges in the back, fold it down at the neckline, and then we'll just put that 1/4 inch hem around the neckline all the way around. And that's the basic dress. That's, what we're going to use to build our angel costume. I'm turning the sleeves now, which was really annoying. But anyway, so there's our little basic white dress. So we got it on the doll. I didn't show you the part where I struggled to get it over her head. And I put a little piece of Velcro on the back. I just glued that in. And so now we're going to do the fun part, and we're going to decorate this. Because I like gold, I'm going to make her a gold and white angel as opposed to silver. So I had some leftover ribbon from Christmas wrapping that I'm going to use for this. And this is perfect because it has the wire in it. It's easily molded. So first of all, I want to do a sash over one shoulder that's gathered at the waist. And I'm cutting the ends of the ribbon at an angle, like a point on one end, so it looks pretty. So this has a little tiny wire on either side of the ribbon. All right, so I'm going to fold it over her shoulder and sort of gather it. This is just my version of an angel. You guys, you can do whatever you like. You might even want to make the whole dress in gold or silver. That would be pretty too. All right, so I'm putting some gathers here at the waist. And then I'm going to just take some gold thread and just really just sort of baste that down because I'm going to give her a sash to put around it. So my vision is just that, this is a Christmas angel is celebrating the birth of Jesus, and, they've got their finest garments on and maybe a special gold sash to commemorate the occasion. I'm just saying, this is my little story in my head that I'm thinking as I'm making this dress, that they would have on their finest garment in celebration. And it would be a joyful occasion, but also a reverent occasion because he would become the savior of the world. And yes, they're happy, but they're also sort of in awe of this whole event that has been in the planning since, the beginning of time with God. Although God has no beginning, the beginning of our time. Okay, so I'm going to turn her around now. Do the same thing on the back that I did in the front. I'm just going to gather there at the waist and basically just baste that down really simply and put a knot in it. I had a little boo-boo there with a knot, so I had to tie the thread by hand to get it finished. But anyway, there's the back, and you can see already that some of her curls are falling out, but that's okay. That's kind of how I wanted it to be, but they're going to be good enough for us to fix her hair. All right, so there we have our sash. Now I want to do some more finishing work on the sleeves, and I'm going to use this smaller gold ribbon and glue it around the edge of the sleeve. So I'm cutting off a piece. And the way I do this is I just glue, like I start at one end, put that glue down, and I'm doing that underneath so that won't show in the front. And then as I glue it, I can stick pins in it to hold it. And that way it won't come loose while you're letting the glue dry. I like to use glue a lot. I know you could just sew this on, but for some reason I'm just a glue girl. I really like gluing things on. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well. And so here's our finished product. I'll let that dry off camera, and I'm going to leave those pins in a little bit longer while we do this part of the dress. Now I have another ribbon here, and it has that little thin wire in it, and that's great because we can use that to gather the ribbon to put around the bottom of the dress instead of having to run a gathering seam in it. So this is a nice little trick. If you get these ribbons that have the wire on the sides, it's great for gathering. So I'm going to just gather up what I think I need to go around the very bottom of the dress. Now I want to make sure I fold that wire over several times in the back and then glue it really good so it doesn't come loose, because if it comes loose, the gathers will come out. So just folded it back and forth a few times to sort of seal it, and then I'm going to put a big glob of my glue on it. And then we're going to glue this down also. And we're going to do that in sections. I'm not really going to glue every edge of this down. So what you do, you want to start by putting it in the back, so of course the seam won't show, and then just put a pin in where you put the glue, which is beneath where you put the glue, and that will allow the glue to dry. And then I'm going to go around and like every inch and a half or so, I put in a little bit of glue and then pinning it. And this is nice too, that, you know, if you didn't make the dress long enough or whatever, you can let that gold hang down over it so that it's covering up anything you want to cover up. That's why this is an adventure. This is how I work. I know it's crazy. I've never done this before. I think I've told you guys before. Everything I do, it's like the first time. So I'm on the same adventure as you guys. All right, so I've got to the back now. I cut it and left enough that I can fold it over, and that's gonna make the wire uh, secure and also give a finished edge for the top of that lace. Okay, so I put a little glue on that, making sure I get it glued down nice and tight. And then we're gonna pin that down, and then we'll let this whole section of the ribboning dry. All right, so there's the bottom of our dress, and that turned out really pretty. I like that. And then we have our sash that we can pull down in front. So for the next part, I'm going to give her a rope, sort of a rope tie around the waist, which sort of reminds me of, you know, how priests wear those corded sashes. I know there's a name for it, but I don't know what it is. And if you put some tape around the ends before you cut it, it keeps them from fraying. I am going to tie a knot in those ends later. So I'm just going to wrap this around and put a knot in it. And so that's her little sash. And like I said, I did put knots in the end of it. I don't think I showed it. But that's kind of the finished look of the dress design at this point. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I felt like the neckline wasn't finished looking, so I did cut another little piece of that rope, golden white rope, and I glued that around the neckline so it looks more finished. It was kind of looking bare up there. And you just can glue those edges down to the dress too. It's fine. All right, now let's go back to the hair. So my goal here is to have it look angelic, but also to cover up that glue spot on the top that where I messed up making this wig. So I'm just going to take a sharp tool here. You could use the point of a comb, like a rat tail comb, anything like that, and just separate these curls so that we can sort of make a little messy updo. So I'm just going around and separating these curls out and then curling them around so that they cover the top part. And I want a little bit to hang around her face. And then there was just this one perfect curl that was already hanging down her back. I'm not going to mess with that because that's just perfect right there. But I am going to just continue on the upper part, separating and making some messy little curls for our angel. Not sure how angel hair looks, but this is my idea anyway. So once I've got that done, I want to give her a halo, and I have these sort of iridescent looking pipe cleaners. So I'm going to use this for two things, to do the halo, and also it will help me to sort of pin the hair down. So I'm going to make a loop and twist that together for the halo part. That's going to be her little halo. So I'm going to twist that together there at the base. And then I'm going to use the ends of this to fold back into the hair to help hold it up, to hold the halo on and also to hold the hair up on her head where I want it to cover up that glued part. All right, and then just some finishing touches. And I didn't show this on camera, but I did put some more hairspray on her hair after I got it finished. So she's got her pretty hairdo. And I've managed to cover up my boo-boo. All right, back to the wings. All right, so we had the outside edges dry now. We want to put this pipe cleaner in. So we just open it up like an envelope, and we're going to stick the pipe cleaner up inside, making sure that we have about a half of an inch sticking out there on the end that's going to go into the back of the dress. And once we get it stuck up in there, then we're going to glue that outer edge. All right, so kind of use your finger to stick it back up in there. All right, and that gives a little structure to this and also provides a way to attach it to the doll. So now I'm just going to take my E6000 again and go around that inner edge and glue that down. And we'll press that down and hold it for a little bit and glue the other side. And then we'll be ready to add the feathers to the wings. So I'm using just the ends of the feathers where they're, so they're short, and I'm just going to cut off the ends of the edges. I'm going to put 2 to 3 layers of feathers on here. So the first layer, I'm making a straight line of glue there, and then I'm just going to put the feathers sort of angled in and down. And then we'll come back in with other layers to cover up the top parts where we glued it so that it'll look like real feather wings, or as much as I can possibly make it look real. It'll exactly look real. All right, so now I'm putting a piece of glue, line of glue there, going over to the edge where the pipe cleaner comes out. And like I said, just clipping off the ends of these feathers so that I'm using the finished ends. They're a little bit bigger than I really need, so I just got these feathers at Michael's. Bag o' feathers. You can get them there. So I'm doing the same thing to that other wing, all the way around on the bottom to the end with the pipe cleaner. Now we're going to put another row of glue a little bit above that. And I really I think that's the only part I needed on the sides, but up at the top I'm going to put even another row. So it's a little bit thicker up there. So you see how I put that line a little bit down from the top. Okay. So now we're just going to continue overlapping feathers and applying them to the wings so that they cover up the row underneath it. And yeah, I did get a lot of feathers stuck to me and feathers all over the room. So beware, especially when you're cutting them, you're getting the little pieces everywhere. It's like when I make a wig. Alpaca fur fiber is everywhere for at least a week. All right, so we're just gonna continue with our layers on the wings. This was pretty time consuming and tedious, but I like the way they turned out. And I like that they're real feathers. I don't know, it just seemed like real angel wings to me for some reason. And she's sort of an expressive doll, so I like that it's not, you know, like a fake looking sort of wing. You could even do this with ribbons. That would be pretty too. All right, so now I've got that second row down. We're going to do another row up at the very top. And this will take the feathers all the way to the edge. And then once we finish this row, I'm going to show you how we're going to cover up that very last bit up at the top. And I'm not going to put feathers on the back because A, I don't have enough, and B, it would take forever, and C, I'm only going to be looking at her from the front. So you could, if you wanted to, especially if you had a tree that wasn't backed up against a wall or something that was out in the middle of the room, you could put the feathers on the back in the very same way that I put them on the front. So we're almost finished with these wings now, and then I do trim them up a little bit just so they're tapered to look like wings, especially down at the bottom, and then where they come up to the point at the curve. All right, so now, so this is a wing, how it looks, and I want to put a feather that's bent over the top to cover up that very last part that's not covered. So I'm going to put just a little line of glue for the stem on the back and glue that back of that feather to it. And then fold it over and put just a little dab of glue underneath that feather so that it'll hold down, but it won't come through. The glue won't come through and look like it's glued. All right. So that covers up the top where the last of the stems of the feathers were. And I do that to the other side as well. Let those dry, and now we've got our feathers. And I did want to put a little bit of gold glitter on them, so what I did is spray some hairspray on the feathers lightly, and then put a dusting of the glitter. All the glitter that was left on my hands, and yeah, there was a lot. I rubbed it on her dress, so there was some glitter, and even put some in her hair. So you can't see it really great, but there is some glitter on her dress from that. And if you do that, you can just give that a light spray of hairspray to hold it too. All right, so I'm cutting little holes on either side of the back of the dress, and this is where those pipe cleaners are going to go. So we're going to stick the end there of the pipe cleaner into that hole. I've got her head turned around. This is the back of the dress. And then I'm going to put some glue on both the front and the back of the end of the feather to hold it onto the dress. Fortunately, these wings are really light, so you don't need a lot of support, but you do need to glue them down so that they stay in position. And I like also that that sash over her shoulder is going to cover where I put the cuts in the dress. So I did the same thing on the other side, glued them down, turned her head back around, and then like I said, I'm putting some glitter on her and spraying it down on the dress and just doing some final touches with her hair. I want to have a little bit hanging down on either side and make sure that it's covering up the glue on the top. And as I said, you can make her very expressive as a Monster High. She's ball, well, not ball jointed, but she's jointed, and you can make her look like she's praying, or her hands lifted in supplication or adulation, anything. And that's the nice thing about this. You can't really do this with the store-bought angels because they're not jointed. So that's one thing I really like about her. You could, position her head differently. I've got her looking up, sort of, like looking to heaven and saying, thank you for this gift to the world. It's sort of my idea. But you can position her however you feel your angel should look. And you could make it with different hair colors, different skin colors, whatever angel you want. It would be your special Christmas angel. And that's why I like this a lot. All right, so now I did take some still pictures as usual to show you a little bit more up in detail so you can look at her closely. And let's go to that. So this is a full length view of the finished doll. And here's a close-up view of her face. Since you didn't get to see the face up, that I think that turned out great. It's not, I think it's expressive. I like it. And then I made a picture of her on top of my tree. So you see that she can be your Christmas angel for your tree, as well as one that would stand up. And then there's one final look of the finished girl. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this was a particularly long video, but I did want to give you the whole project at one time. And since the face up part is missing, it wasn't quite as long as it would have been. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I have some more exciting stuff coming up. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Thanks, and bye.